with Kansas Governor Sam Brownback. Governor, thanks for being here.
You bet, Brett. Welcome to Kansas. Good to have you here.
Thank you very much. I want to talk about Eisenhower and your thoughts about all of that in just a minute. First, I want to start on Capitol Hill. You were a senator before becoming governor, and you were actually on the Judiciary Committee for a couple of these appointments.
Both Roberts and Alito, and them getting through.
As you look at what's happening now, what's your assessment, and do you think Democrats are going to try to filibuster Judge Gorsuch?
Well, first, Judge Gorsuch deserves 60 votes. He's a quality candidate. He has all the credentials that need to take place to be on the United States Supreme Court. He's clerked there for 2 Supreme Court judges. He's served with distinction. He deserves 60 votes. Now, the question is whether the base of the Democrat Party is going to allow enough Democrat senators to cross over and to vote for him. And he deserves to have it. He deserves to be on the court. I think really it's really going to be up to Democrats whether they're going to be fair with this process.
Do you sense that they're going to be?
I think that's a mixed bag right now. A number of senators that are up in states that Donald Trump won are probably looking, how do I figure my way to vote for him? Now, is there enough to get him to that 60-vote threshold, and are there enough in the other places to stop him? But absent that, this is a man that deserves to be on the United States Supreme Court.
I wanted to talk about another issue that's hot in Washington and hot here, and that is refugees. The president's executive order got a lot of pushback. It was controversial, but something that he pledged on the campaign trail. You here in Kansas have done something about refugees specifically.
We did the same thing. And I used to chair this committee on the refugees coming to the United States. And I have advocated for refugees coming to the United States. But you have to do it in a situation in a way where the American people are going to be safe. Because that's the first duty of the United States government, is to provide for the safety and security of the American people. That's why we said here in Kansas, we will take refugees from many places, but not from countries that have been identified by the State Department as terrorist-sending countries. And that's what the president said. We'll take them from other places, from other Muslim countries, because this is seen as a Muslim ban, but not from countries that are identified as places that send terrorists. And I think that's as it should be.
Yeah, the White House and others pushing back against that Muslim ban, saying there are Indonesia and Egypt and others that are not included in that. And the reaction to President Trump and this Australian dust-up about not taking those refugees, a deal that was made in the Obama administration?
Well, I think the president's doing the same sort of thing there, where he's saying, I've got to first protect the United States. And we have had situations in this country where refugees that came here ended up being charged with terrorist charges. And he's just trying to do the thing that he's called upon to do first, which is to protect the safety of the United States. I don't like the dust-up, particularly with such a good ally like Australia. But this is what the president's called to do.
The president is also dealing with a budget that is, a lot of different things are happening. The debt ceiling coming up. He's going to try to push taxes. Here in Kansas, you're trying to deal with your own budget, a $900 million shortfall in the budget, and you're trying to do a number of things. How are you going to get it done?
We're going to do a lot of the same things that he's talking about. We've got to cut our costs back. And we've been doing that. We've got to be able to get growth taking place in the state. We're starting to see that. Part of our problem has been the commodity prices have been low. We're a major oil state. We're a major agriculture state. And those commodities have been low, and so we've been cycling down. So a lot of what we've got to do is hold our costs down until some of the normalcy comes back on those. And they will. And I think you'll see that as we can get more growth taking place, that is the long-term key. You got to grow. And that's what the president's pointing to as well. We cut taxes on small business to create growth. He's looking at doing that. That is the key piece long-term, is to get that growth going. Under President Obama, we had less than 2% growth rates. This country is capable of a 4% growth rate, and we've got to get that growth rate up.
But you've seen organizations like the Committee for a Responsible Budget who look at the Trump tax plan, at least what they saw of it on the campaign trail, and they say a $4.5 trillion increase in the debt comes out of that tax plan. I guess they're not factoring in all of the growth that you talk about, but you can't really deal with the debt, can you, without dealing with entitlements in some way, shape, or form?
I think you need to. I think you need to deal with something on entitlements. Now, President Trump didn't run on that. said he wasn't going to talk about entitlements, but ultimately at a federal level, unless you start talking about entitlements, I don't think you're being realistic about trying to...
Not now, but down the road.
Well, I think you need to start now. I really do think you need to have entitlement reform being talked about, because it's just so much a part of the system now that until you start to get some governor on that, where you're controlling it somewhat, you're going to be in trouble. The key first step is growth. You got to get that growth rate above 2%, where we've been going. You need to get it into 3 and 4%. And then next, I think you really need to talk about entitlement reform in this country.
Where do you put your budget shortfall? I read from this report.
It's not that high, and we've been struggling, as much of the Midwest has, under low commodity prices. But we've got a plan put forward, working with the legislature. They're the ones that pass it and determine it, and we'll be able to work our way on through it.
Someone who had a booming economy was President Eisenhower over his 8 years. He also worked bipartisan with the Democratic House and Senate. Do you think that can come back to Washington?
It can. I think it's going to be tough now. The Democrats have taken a tack in this time that we're just going to fight. I've never seen a transition like this one before.
Well, I will say Republicans did that with President Obama, Governor.
Not at the very outset. Remember the first year of President Obama? I mean, he does Obamacare, and they decide they're going to do this. He does basically he adds another half year on their budget, and he puts that in the first 150, 200 days. And most of the time you give a person a little bit of a honeymoon, and you don't start out with protest the first day after a person is in office. I think it's going to be difficult to get bipartisanship back, given the amount of passion that's flowing out there now. And really, what you're seeing President Trump do, I think, is this is what I campaigned on. And he's doing it, and he's doing it fast, and he's doing it hard.
Governor, I like the I Like Ike pin.
Yeah.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you for being here.